Now, working with a luxury influencer could help brands get a piece of that 20% by giving their products the opportunity to be promoted and bought online in one place. That place, a luxury influencer's content. Welcome to Friday, right here on the home of Untold Stories. Tonight, we can't talk about luxury influencers without mentioning Sonal Mahirali, the Kenyan-Tanzanian vlogger and fashionpreneur who has over 150,000 followers on Instagram, over 73,000 subscribers on YouTube, and her own brand website. Something that Sonal does so well in the world of luxury influence is to use her platform to proudly display her own unique take on fashion and luxury. Welcome to the show, Sonal.
Thank you so much.
Tell us something about yourself that not so many people know about, and it is of course worth mentioning, Sonal.
Not many people know that I am a poet on the side, a motivational speaker with a keen interest in girl development, and I'm a fully fledged dog mom, and look out for a full collection of my poetry coming out very soon.
Now, for those watching, you don't want to miss this. Catch Sonal and I on the Friday interview at 9:30 p.m. You can watch us live on Facebook and Twitter at TV47 Kenya, on DStv channel 268, Zuku StarTimes, and free-to-air channels. In the headlines tonight. Tonight, Chief Justice Martha Koome says the Judiciary is mulling beginning night shifts as it battles to reduce the choking backlog of cases.
In fact, if we get adequate support, we think of having a night shift operation, what the governor was talking about, with some adjudicators sitting from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Nairobi and Mombasa cities, which would...
This as the government maintains it will not interfere with its independence.
The President, our boss, in his wisdom, has placed the function of coordinating independent offices and constitutional commissions in my office, not for the purpose of interfering with whatever you do, but for the very purpose of providing a facilitative and supportive role.
Not Kenya leader Martha Karua makes good her threat and files a petition at the East African Court of Justice seeking to fault Supreme Court decision that affirmed Ruto's win in the August polls. Plus, Marsabit residents now forced to choose between their lives and that of their animals.
Hii ng'ombe hapa maiti ile ziko hapa zaidi ya 200 sababu ya kukosa nyazi walisho maka 4.
As the worst drought in close to 40 years hits hard. Welcome to Friday. My name is Karen Karimi, and Catherine Simaloa is a sign language interpreter tonight. Now, to our top story. NARC leader Martha Karua has made good her threat and has challenged the verdict of the Supreme Court in the East Africa Court of Justice. Karua, who jointly filed a reference with human rights activist Khalef Khalifa, have faulted the Supreme Court and IBC for failing the country's democracy. Stanley Nyaringita with Karua's case against Chebukati.
On September 2022, former Azimio One Kenya deputy presidential candidate Martha Karua made a declaration on her quest for closure on whether justice was served in the Supreme Court's verdict of the presidential petition.
I'm actually considering whether to travel on a hot air balloon to the East African Court just to discuss that judgment.
The NARC leader, together with the chairman of Muslim for Human Rights, Khalef Khalifa, has now moved to the East Africa Court of Justice before the expiry of the 2-month window, Saturday, 5th November this year. In a move to challenge the Supreme Court's verdict that was in favor of William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, Karua and Khalifa have stated that both the Apex Court and IBC failed the Kenya's democracy. In their reference, the applicants claim that the neck-to-neck presidential elections that were conducted on the 9th of August, pitting Azimio leader Raila Odinga and Ruto together with the announcement of the results, were not conducted according to the law. Following the Supreme Court's decision to annul the presidential elections on the 5th of September on grounds that the petitioners failed to provide enough evidence on the allegations, Karua and Khalifa have claimed that the Apex Court's decision was unconstitutional. Also, the two want the court to direct a prompt investigation and also order the respondents, among them President Ruto, Deputy President Gachagua and IEBC, to pay the compensation for damages caused. Karua and Khalifa are also calling for necessary measures to be taken to curb future violations of human rights. The senior counsel had earlier stated that she was aware that the EACJ's decision will not change the Kenyan presidency.
Lakini sababu koti imetoa amri, Kenya iendelee kulingana na vile koti iliona. Hiyo ndio rule of law na democracy.
The applicants have also faulted the Supreme Court for finding that the chairperson of the IEBC conducted an election in a lawful manner on the one hand, yet failing to assign a legal consequence for the breach. Stanley Nyeringita, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, thousands of Marsabit residents are teetering on the verge of succumbing to starvation, having lost nearly all their sources of nutrition and livelihood. It is estimated that the pastoralist communities in the county have lost about 1 million livestock to the vagaries of drought, as the authorities estimate that over 252,000 residents are left at the mercy of humanitarian agencies. Our Marsabit correspondent, Michael Quena, has been pitching camp on the ground and gives the true perspective of the prevailing situation in our special report dubbed The Droughty Sobs of Marsabit.
Whenever the name Marsabit is mentioned, the disturbing thoughts of the recurring crisis and daily struggles of the common mwananchi in this marginal county are evoked. The ongoing drought situation has left this county more deplorable than it was, as nearly 80% of water sources have dried up and pasture depleted, throwing humans, livestock and even wildlife in dire straits of fighting for survival. All four sub-counties Marsabit County, namely Laisamis, North Hor, and even the ones that enjoy tropical rain seasons such as Sakwa and Moyale, have also been hard hit. Even the few surviving livestock are currently too emaciated to trek for hundreds of kilometers that the herders have been forced to cover with their animals in search of pasture and water in the neighboring counties such as Samburu, Isiolo, as well as the neighboring country Ethiopia. The majority of the households here have now been forced to solely rely on relief food daily. My treacherous journey begins at Laisamis constituency. I bump into Angelele Kelele as she queues to water her goats at the well. Life here is a real struggle, as Lekelele reveals how she is forced to spend the night at the well just to make sure her animals get water. Only her 6 goats among 30 have survived the vagaries of drought.
Jana nilikuja kulala hapa, mbuzi kaletwa na mtoto wangu. Kwa sababu ndo nichunge kisima, ndo mbuzi asikose nini? Maji. Asubuhi ndo niliamkia hapo kuchunga hii kisima.
The situation here is no different from what we witness in Kargi location, as nearly all households here have been left surviving on relief food. We meet Hao Sado, fully immersed in her daily chores at her home. She is one of the humanitarian aid beneficiaries. She recounts that even the little food ration given to her family must be shared by other unlucky neighbors.
Tumepatiwa mwezi uliopita ilikuwa 9,000. Hiyo 9,000 ni ya chakula. Hiyo chakula hata pengine haiwezi fika hata kwa mwezi, mpaka tena ile nyingine tuongoje wakati ile nyingine nitufikia. Kwa sababu hiyo chakula ukileta nyumbani lazima kuna wengine hawajakuwa beneficiary ya hiyo chakula, ya hiyo pesa. So lazima utagawane wengine tena kwa sababu maskini tena iko.
Statistics from the National Drought Management Authority indicate that over 250,000 residents are food insecure in this county. The situation has been exacerbated by 4 consecutive failed rainy seasons, leading to the worst drought ever seen in the last 4 decades. Our arrival at the Parikshon village in Saku sub-county revived Zainab Leruk's waning hopes that they will at least have something to eat, having skipped meal for 3 days. Life has thrown Zainab off the balance as she hardly gets enough food to feed her children. There are times go without food for even 3 days.
Sasa tunalala bila kukula. Watoto naenda asubuhi kuenda shule bila kukunywa hata chai.
Hagiso Galhaile's narration is the true picture of the plight of the population in this region.
Kuna maji bago mtu nakula, mtoto hakuna maji. Bago nasafisha nguo hakuna. Chakula hakuna. Wale ya Mungu tu hapa katikati ya Mungu tu.
The ongoing drought has also adversely impacted the education sector, with many school-going children forced to stay away from school to look for food. Early this week, the onset of October, November, December short rains was witnessed in a few regions across the county. However, it will take time for normalcy to resume. Already the weatherman said that the ongoing rains might not be enough to change the drought situation. Boya Ali Galgalo is a resident of Maikona in the North Horr constituency.
Ukame unasidi tena, hujanyesha. Hata mvua ikinyesha, watu hawezi kula nyasi kama mbuzi. Naona mfugo sasa ilisha. Hata ikinyesha siku ya leo, watu hawezi kula nyasi kama mfugo. Naona lazima unahitaji chakula kama maziwa, kama nyama. Hiyo mfugo sasa amisha.
Pastoralists in the country have been urged to embrace livestock offtake as a new adaptation approach.
Malnutrition cases among children under 5 years have also been on the rise due to the acute food shortage witnessed in Marsabit County. The County Health Department has registered at least 8,627 malnutrition cases among the under 5 years, with 1,239 children being acutely malnourished and staring death in the eye. Mustafa Parkolo is the NDMA Marsabit County coordinator.
And we have also issues on malnutrition rates arising from lack of food intakes within the household, mostly affecting the under 5 children and pregnant and lactating women.
The situation is no different in Dabe location in Moyale sub-county, where the residents too are forced to choose between their lives and that of their livestock.
Kwa hivyo hii ng'ombe hapa maiti ile ziko hapa zaidi ya 200 sababu ya kukosa nyazi malisho maka 4 ardhi hii hajapata mvua, na ile chakula ambayo walikuwa wanategemea yote inakosekana.
Marsabit County Deputy Commissioner David Saruni explains that huge sums of money have been sunk into alleviating the residents' pain amid the ravaging drought, but the gap is still huge.
Tumeendelea pia kuona kuwa kuna mifugo ambayo imeendelea pia kudhoofika kwa sababu ya kukosa lishe na kwa sababu ya ukame, na pia serikali pia inafanya juhudi na wakishirikiana na washikadau wa NGOs kwamba kuleta misaada ya chakula hata pia kwa mifugo.
Thousands of residents in Marsabit County have started moving to neighboring counties in search of food, water and pasture for their animals as drought continues to ravage the north. Michael Kwena, TV47 in Marsabit County.
Moving on, Kenya Kwanza MPs led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah have criticized Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga over his recent remarks on extrajudicial killings and his defense on witch hunt against ex-DCI boss George Kinoti, urging him to present evidence on relevant authorities on the said-involved officers. Elizabeth Mutuku with a fresh battlefront between Ruto and Raila.
A day after Azimio One Kenya boss Raila Odinga called out the government for being selective in prosecution of cases and what he claims is hunting down former regime's allies in the pretext of the war over extrajudicial killings, Kenya Kwanza MPs have chided him back, urging him to present evidence over the
judicial killings that happened in this country. Or is he saying that they did not happen? Is he telling us that it is a vindictive agenda that is targeting specific current and past state officers? Does Mr. Odinga know who these state officers are? And that's what we're asking Mr. Odinga. If you know who these current or former state officers are, who may have been involved in extrajudicial killings, the right thing for you to do is not to castigate government for investigating, is to walk to the investigative authorities, relay the
kutoka Azimio, yeye anaona kwamba hayo ni makosa na anaeleza kwamba pengine ni kisiasa. Tunamwambia leo hivi ya kwamba serikali hii itaenda kila mahali kutafuta yule ambaye alikuwa anaongoza kikosi cha kuua Wakenya kiholela. Mauaji ya kiholela yalitekelezwa na kila Mkenya anajua, vyombo vya habari vilitangaza.
Miles away in Migori County, however, Raila and his allies waged war with attacks against the government, decrying intimidations and favorism, telling off President whom they insist was part of the previous regime.
Sasa ni kukosoa watu wengine hapa na pale, wanatafuta udhuru. Sasa wameanza mambo ati kunafanya uchunguzi juu ya mambo ya mauaji ya kiholela, lakini vile vile wanafanya wanabagua. Kuna wale wengine ambayo wanapatia hao msamaha, lakini wale wengine ambayo wanalenga, wanajaribu kuangamiza hao watu.
Let him not victimize Kinoti, let him not victimize Matiang'i, because I know the target is not those young men who have been arrested. The target is Kinoti and the target is Matiang'i, and we know it, we hear it from them. These guys did their job. Let them go and rest. You also have your government in place, but you should remember that if there was police killing, you were also deputy president in that government which was killing people. So you cannot run away from blame. The president was there, you were his deputy, and all officers of the state must take responsibility.
Further, the Kenya Kwanza Brigade have poked holes on Raila's statement on economy, which they claim was part of the mess through handshake and failing to oversight the previous regime.
And Odinga wants to draw parallels between these two. How do you compare 24 years to less than 5 years of economic mismanagement? Yours, Mr. Odinga, was oversighting a high-stakes criminal enterprise.
Despite the barbs by Kenya Kwanza, Raila Odinga and Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka insist they won't relent on calling out the government, especially on equity of government opportunities and services.
Katika serikali tumeona kama kuna ubaguzi kwa upande ya ajira. Serikali inabagua eneo zingine ya taifa letu ati kwa sababu ya kisiasa, na hiyo si mzuri. Manake ushuru inatolewa na Wakenya wote katika pembe zote za Kenya. Kuna wale wengine ambao wanatoa ushuru na wengine hawatoi ushuru. Kama wewe una shida na Raila Odinga, angalia Raila ana kwa ana, lakini hapana dhuru wengine kwa sababu ya Raila.
Aondoke njiani, ama sivyo nao si msikombanisho wa Kenya kusema dynasties. We are all the same. Sisi tumesema tumekubali utafanya kazi kama wapinzani, loyal opposition and serious opposition. Hatuna ubaya na ndugu yetu William Samoei Arap Ruto is my younger brother and he knows it. And he knows mambo ikifika kikiumana aondoke.
Beth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, as the COVID-19 numbers keep soaring, various stakeholders in the health sector are now calling for the return of some of the containment measures previously put in place to curb the spread of the pandemic. Our reporter Elizabeth Atieno spoke to the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Secretary General George Kibore and filed this following report.
The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020 greatly affected the global health and economy sector. It is a pandemic that changed lives as we know it, as quarantine and lockdown were considered the new order of the day. However, in March this year, Kenyans were happy that they could finally breathe a sigh of relief after the mandatory wear of face masks was lifted. But it looks like this happiness will be short-lived if the Ministry of Health considers some of the proposals by various health stakeholders who are now calling for the reintroduction of some of the containment measures.
We have a new government. They must actually look on how to do things differently. Because we cannot continue doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result.
The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Secretary General Dr. George Kibore has warned that the increase might overwhelm the country's health sector Positivity rate stands at 8.9%.
So the reason why we need actually to call on the government to ensure that they need to revisit and get to see how to enforce the containment measures and avoid the resurgence of these cases.
And as the COVID-19 curve gets steeper, the World Health Organization is yet to establish the main reason behind the surge in numbers, as speculations remain rife that the surge could be as a result of a new variant.
I'm not certain. The new variant can only be pronounced if the research has been done scientifically, because the process of doing that, WHO have been taking lead all across, but currently no new variant has been pronounced.
The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers is now proposing for proper sensitization of the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine, which has only been administered to 36.3% of Kenya's population, which is far from the 70% target set by the Ministry of Health.
Including now, despite that we have a number of, vaccine available, people are not taking. So we have totally relaxed that discussion around the COVID-19.
On Thursday, the positivity rate shot up to 14%. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
Now, Education CS Ezekiel Mashogo says 2 people have been arrested with fake examination material, which is set to begin later this month. Now, this comes as the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms completed week 1 of the public engagements.
Friday marked the final day of the first week of the public engagements by the Presidential Working Party on education reforms, with Laikipia residents expressing their issues with the education system.
Watu hawajavuna, mifugo imekufa, kupata chakula yenyewe ya kula ni shida, wacha pesa ya kulipa karo.
The Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms Task Force has also received views from Isiolo residents.
People of Isiolo, we have said, CBC is okay, we are promoting, but people of Meru have no roads. People, I don't know other places, internet is not there. People, I don't know, for Dolin, I don't know, we have no roads.
Teachers in Isiolo were represented by Sheikh Daud, who urged the government to ensure that teachers are given the necessary tools to support the way CBC is rolled out.
Walimu wengi hawana ujuzi katika kazi ya kufundisha wanafunzi. Kwa sababu vile walimu wamesema, they also lacking capacity building. Kwa sababu walimu wanataka capacity building iendelee zaidi.
On transition to junior secondary school, Machogu said that the ministry will make a decision on where the schools will be domiciled in line with the recommendations of the task force. Speaking on the sidelines of the meeting with the task force, CS Machogu said that the 2 people have been arrested with fake exam papers that they had intended to sell to pupils. This, as he assured that the ministry will ensure that the national exams set for this month will be above board.
The security arrangements and manning of exams, we have all those arrangements in place.
Reporting for TV 47, my name is Beatrice Watari.
Now, all roads will head to Kinoru Stadium in Meru Diocese on Saturday for the Beatification to Sainthood of Catholic Sister Maria Karua. Now, the announcement of the beatification was authorized by Pope Francis in December 2021 and later announced by the Sisters of St. Joseph Katelengo after a miracle attributed to her was recognized. The miracle attributed to Sister Karua happened at Gatunga in Tharaka Nithi County, where a woman gave birth to a baby boy with no heartbeat. One of the nuns who were the nurses is said to have said a prayer to Sister Karua, and the newborn baby named Msafiri Hilary Kiama began to breathe 30 minutes later. The incident is said to have happened in April 2013, and 9 years later, the child continues living a healthy life. Saturday's event marks the second last step before canonization, which is the official admission into sainthood. This is the second beatification in Kenya after that of Sister Irene Stefani Nyadha in May 2015.
Alikuwa anaitwa Stefania wa shirika la Consolata. Hii ilifanywa, hiyo ndio ilikuwa ya kwanza. Ingine ya msista ambaye alikuwa amefanya kazi hapa ni huyu anaitwa Leonela, hata huyo ni wa Consolata. Lakini huyo Sister Stefania alikuja after Sister Maria Karua. Alafu tuko na delegation kutoka Italy, tuko na delegation kutoka India, tuko na delegation kutoka America. Wale wote wamekuja kuhudhuria hii sherehe.
Moving on, Chief Justice Martha Koome now says that the judiciary is considering beginning operations at night in some courts across the country in order to reduce the backlog of cases and create more revenue for the government. Speaking during the unveiling of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice report, President William Ruto pledged to not only support the judiciary but also respect its decisions.
It's my first occasion to be in the judiciary.
President William Ruto attended his first judiciary event as president when he received the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice Soldier Report 2021-2022. The president using the event to reaffirm his commitment to support the judiciary in its quest to ensure justice for all.
Performance was achieved on a budgetary allocation which stood at 0.6% of the national budget. Without a doubt, the low budgetary allocation has affected critical projects and activities. It is with this in mind that I gave the undertaking, and which I repeat, to enhance annual allocation to the judiciary for the next 5 years.
Chief Justice Martha Koome explaining the bittersweet run the third arm of government has faced over the period under review. Among other things, the report recommends that the executive increases its funding.
Your Excellency's commitment for additional 3 billion shillings annually to the judiciary in the next 5 years is also a milestone within the period that is being reviewed.
In fact, if we get adequate support, we think of having a night shift operation, what the governor was talking about.
National Assembly and the Senate pledging to work together with the judiciary in a bid to ensure each and every Kenyan is able to access justice.
Whenever you make such decisions, it makes the legislature even more careful in ensuring that the laws they pass must be consistent with the Constitution and with the aspirations of the people of Kenya.
The president also using the platform to fire back at his competitor who called for international input in a bid to solve some called extrajudicial killing cases.
Institutions built by others, we can build our own institutions. Even those other institutions that we celebrate, be they the Scotland Yard or the FBI, they were built by countries who respect the rule of law.
Not I, not those below us will ever take a telephone and ask you to determine a matter either way or another. That will not happen.
The newfound friendship with the judiciary coming even as the Law Society of Kenya called out the Ruto administration for disobedience of court orders. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, Kenya has made great milestones in combating the HIV virus through easy access to ARVs and the startup to self-help groups and community centers to make coping easy for those infected and affected by the virus. However, the numbers are on the rise, with many deaths due to the virus being associated defaulting of ARV medication by the victims. Beatrice Watare paints a clear picture of what living with the virus and being on medication entails.
The country has witnessed massive progress over the last decade in reducing the number of infections and AIDS-related deaths, consequently leading to improved quality of life for those living with the virus and also reduce the risk of infections. A gap is, however, left where we have a multitude of people still defaulting in ARVs due to stigma, leading to an upsurge in opportunistic infections.
Watu wameanza kushindwa kunywa dawa. Na hiyo point unapata watu wengi wanaumia cause most of them that's why they are dying cause HIV have never killed anyone. Vitu zitakuwa ni after defaulting the medication, hiyo opportunistic infections zenye zitakuja after sasa wewe mwenyewe umedefault.
Mary, not her real name, only learnt of her condition while in class 6. Oblivious to her was the fact that she had had the virus since birth.
Okay, nilizaliwa nayo but nilifind out 2013. Dawa natumia ni ya
HIV.
Discrimination became part and parcel of her life, and ARVs became a burden to the point of defaulting in her medication, just so she could feel normal again. But the already bad situation became worse.
So, hata ikutake long baada ya kukataa dawa, nikagonjeka. Sasa time niligonjeka, it was like, isaida nikunywe ama nikufe.
Meeting with Tony was a life changer for her when she realized that she was not alone in the born with the virus category. And from him, she found not just comfort, but a wake-up call to stick to her medication, a decision that has borne fruits to date.
Sijagonjeka, yani like nilikuwa nakaa 2 months, nagonjeka 2 months, yani sikukuwa nakaa for long. Hadi watu walikuwa wanaanza kushuku like, kwani unakuanga na shida gani? Nasema ulcers tu. Like kugonjeka, like, then I was weak, sometimes unapata sina appetite, but since nikutane naye na kula kila kitu, then sikuwa nakunywa maji. Kusema kweli Tony ndiye amefanya nikunywe maji. Tony huwa anatuadvise kunyweni maji, so hadi nimeanza kunywa maji.
Upon asking Tony why he decided to come public with his condition, he explains how the worrying numbers of youth in Kenya living with the virus and defaulting of ARVs prompted him to become public.
Tuma nikuje public ni venye kumekuwa na defaulters wengi kwa mahospitali. Mahospitali zina report many cases ya watu kudefault on ARVs. We as the youth tunapimana macho. Unapatana tu na mtu utaki kujua status yake. Wengine wetu tunaangalia tu mtu physically. You don't want to know maybe ako positive, ako negative, ako aje, kama ako na STIs, you don't want to know. So tunapimana na macho through physical appearance.
Speaking to Dr. Opondo, a general health practitioner, echoed that the virus levels are indeed reduced with proper adherence to ARVs, but this does not mean a victim is not at the risk of contracting a different strain of the virus.
Once you are virally suppressed, that means you are undetectable. You have very low chances of transmitting to another individual. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue to protect yourself, because there are different forms of HIV. There's HIV-1, there's HIV-2. You may be having HIV-1, and then the person you're sleeping with maybe has HIV-2.
The HIV virus has become a menace in the society, and unfortunately, those infected are battling with discrimination from the society around them. However, it is our obligation to ensure that we help those infected and affected in their pursuit to gain acceptance of the infection. Reporting for TV47, my name is Beatrice Wat.
Thank you, Watare, for that report. Now, let's get sporty. And Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba earlier today reinstated the disbanded Football Kenya Federation National Executive Committee and the Secretariat after abiding by the World Football Governing Body FIFA's conditions in order to have the suspension imposed on Kenya lifted. Ababu made the confirmation at the Kenya National Library in Nairobi, where he stated that he is focused on dissolving the impasse as soon as possible, since sports impact largely on the livelihoods of many Kenyans. Our sports reporter Dennis Otieno with the details.
Football fans, players and stakeholders in the country earlier today breathed a sigh of relief after Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba confirmed that the Ministry of Sports had reached an agreement and signed commitments with the Football Kenya Federation FKF that were in line with the conditions stipulated to Kenya by World Football Governing Body FIFA. FIFA had instructed the ministry to revoke the FKF Caretaker Committee formed by the former Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed and reinstate the National Executive Committee as well as the Secretariat of the Football Kenya Federation FKF.
The government has made a commitment which will be conveyed to FIFA shortly to meet the conditions set by FIFA so that the suspension by FIFA can be lifted pronto to see our football back. And I have a communication to that effect with me.
This comes after the mandate of the FKF Caretaker Committee lapsed and FKF Vice President Doris Petra alongside the FKF Secretary General Barry Otieno reinstated in office.
We are pleased to confirm that the government has fulfilled the aforementioned conditions as set out by the FIFA Council. Of course, this is as part of the ongoing government efforts to allow Kenya return to international football.
According to Ababu, the next process of delivering the commitments to World Football Governing Body FIFA begins.
We expect that FIFA will respond with speed to the communication we are releasing to them immediately after this press conference.
Speaking during the event, FKF President Nick Mwendwa stated that he had agreed to step aside and abide by FIFA's conditions before his pending case in court is resolved.
I have allowed the team to continue doing this. I believe in a matter of a short period of time, then this issue will be dealt with, get out of my hand, because now I know I will receive fairness as opposed to before when we were being arrested on Fridays and taken to Gigiri. Those of us who are done so. So now that I have that confidence, I have agreed today and in writing to the minister, and I've informed FIFA and we're going to inform them now.